at your deathbed, you've lived a film.
We don't come to Earth for a long time. We come for a very short amount of time.
For most people, in the sidelines was the second film.
The hell with it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to become a writer.
For whatever reason, and whether you didn't have the courage or the curiosity or the confidence, it never came to be.
We finished training the horses and we started the journey.
And the purpose and the reason we do the do
Must is just who you are.
This is your life.
Seize the day.
is to narrow the distance between those two films.
Thank you, Curtis, and thank you to everybody for this experience. I can't begin to express my gratitude to being here and being part of this. So we're going to talk a little bit about camping, and a little about. So what we're going to talk about is a little bit about me, a little as possible, and then going a little about my history, about a trip I took, and a journey I'm on, and it is all about being outdoors. For me, I am a product of an industry, of the outdoor industry and recreation and the product that goes along with that. And it really started close to here. Even coming to the Do lectures was kind of a coming home. I lived in Arcata, about 3.5 hours north of here. And when I went to college, I worked at a small outdoor store that owned a small factory. And I ended up working at the factory that we sewed sleeping bags and Gore-Tex jackets. And that experience, it's put me on the path for the rest of my life. And I feel incredibly blessed because by chance, I stepped into an industry that's seen 25 years of uninterrupted growth. And 25 years of uninterrupted growth in an industry covers up a lot of your own shortcomings. You're really able to make mistakes and still succeed. And so I consider myself not so much, you have to be smart, you have to work hard, but I do consider myself blessed to be part of something that we were able to grow and be part of a movement and be part of that for so long. So on top of that, I have a background and a family that's all about camping. And it's grandparents and parents and us kids and our kids. And camping is it's camping for the sake of being outdoors, but it's also camping to enable other things, fly fishing, whitewater kayaking, festival attending. All of it revolved around, we were always sleeping outside to do what we love to do. Sometimes it was just the act of camping, but normally it was the thing that we had to do what we loved. So this was always part of my life, my industry, and then my lifestyle and my passions. And then in my career, as I progressed throughout my career, I always consider myself, I was an enabler for entrepreneurs. I was a person that came in and helped them realize what they wanted to achieve. And I took that very seriously. And when you do that for a living, you're always asking yourself, when is it going to be me? When am I going to take this step? Or your good friends tell you over and over, when is it going to be you? And that's kind of the harder question. Because I loved what I did, and I got to work with some really extraordinary people. So I also have this history of I tend to work really hard for 7 years and then take a break. I talked to some new friends last night about this. And so I have this, I work hard, and then I kind of get to this place and I take off. I've gone to Chile for 6 months, and now that I have family, the last time I did this, we loaded up the family in our camper van, and my wife is a very serious surfer. And I owed her. I've been working this 7-year stint. And we'd been looking at Mexico. She's a goofy-footed surfer. So we looked at every left point break down the coast of Mexico. And it was all labeled, we should go here, and just discussing where we're going to go. And I had that 7-year itch was coming on, and I went, why don't we do all of them? And it was this 3-month trip down mainland, and took our 2-year-old at the time, Zane was with us. And that trip, I spent a lot of time taking care of the kids, cleaning the van, cooking the meals. My wife spent a lot of time surfing. And in that experience, I had this time to craft this idea, the what's next for me. And it was all about everything I had learned, and it was about camping, because we were camping the entire time. And for me, it was so much of the equipment I had I wasn't inspired by. Worked fantastic, very functional, super durable. I wasn't really passionate about what I was using. So it really made me look at the industry and what we do as a business. And I'm sorry I have 3 tech slides. But my first kind of thought I had, because we're a really technology-driven business, is that it's been a long time since technology has improved our outdoor experience. And what I mean by this is about 20 years ago, technology got to a point and function got to a point where we achieved a level of comfort and safety where everything after that was incredibly incremental. And our business is all built around technology. So everything is this incremental step, but we're not really improving the experience. And we tend to concentrate on the product and not on the passion and why we use it. So this is my first thing I wanted to focus on. I also think that technology really, what it does is its purpose in our business is really to make sure your product outsells your competition. It gives you a leg up in the market, but not necessarily in the experience. So also brands highlight features and not the benefits of their product. And this is, I think we hear this a lot, but when you get down to it, we're makers. We build things. And there's a lot of makers in this room. And as makers, we love to talk about how hard it was to make this thing. And we love to give you every detail you need that was so important to us and the challenges we overcame. And then in my experience, that discussion is not what the users want to hear. And if this was an audience of gear editors, and you were using the sleeping bags, the questions I would be getting is, what zipper did I use? What's the denier of the fabric? What kind of insulation was in the bag? I have not heard one of those questions in the last 2 days. Thank you very much, by the way. You have no idea what a relief it is. You want to know, how does the bag work? How do I stay comfortable at night? How does it store? Like, those are the things that I think are really important. And us as an industry, I think have really lost track of that. But my biggest thing, and what I was feeling, is I had this fear that camping was no longer going to be relevant. That for all these reasons that we weren't impressing why people camp and what's so lovely about sleeping under the stars, we were telling them what the alloy of their pole set was. And so in that discussion, this fear, and I have this image in my head of our industry, and I call it it's like my professional kryptonite picture, which is this. Like, it's the most, and this could be 1,000 pictures. When you look up camping, this is what it says. And I'm like, we are going to have a generation of humans that don't sleep outside if we keep going. And that was my biggest fear. I was like, so I crafted this plan. Kelly's surfing, Zane's like playing in the dirt. And it was just this super loose idea. It was like brand, it was these ideas, little product stuff. And nice thing about being older in this industry is you can look back in time and pluck those great ideas. And the young kids weren't around, so they think they're new ideas. So this two-sided sleeping bag thing is 30 years old. There's nothing new about that. But it comes across as new and fresh. So that idea went on a shelf. And it sat there for 5 years. We got back from the trip. I started back in my entrepreneurial repair kit thing. I had an amazing opportunity, went to another company, and really was in a place that was spectacular. I was really enjoying professionally, I was really enjoying it. Personally, I was enjoying it. And I met some people that really wanted to get into the camping business. They had a vision of what they wanted to do. And I got asked to a meeting, and they had tried to get into the camping business and not done well. And I got that question, what would you do? And I'm like, well, about 5 years ago, I wrote this thing. And it was like F-bombs, and I mean, and I just threw it at them, and they said, we'll fund it. So now I'm in this really comfortable place in this growing business. And then, to the thanks of my wife, she said, you have to do this. Now's your chance. This won't come around again. So we jumped, left the most safe, greatest place, nicest people, and jumped. And I didn't think this through. Like, this didn't have a brand name. This didn't have an image. This didn't have anything to it. And so I stepped out, and I remember this so well. I sat down day one, and you go, wow, how do you even start? Like, I had no idea. I didn't know how we were going to go, but I had this great business partner I was working with. And she and I were going through this list of questions, and we came across this image from a music festival that became kind of our guiding light. It was this kid at a festival. And we called him Conceived in a Tent. And by the way, I do not own the rights to this picture. I've tried to find the photographer and haven't been able to. And we just kept asking, what does he sleep in? What do his parents sleep in? Like this, he was like pinned on the wall, and that's what everything we did with Ticla was to and I would love to meet, he's probably like 20 years old now, but we would love to meet this kid. So we crafted this plan, and it took, so we started Ticla, so it's about 2.5 years ago. We've been shipping products for about 6 months. And the brand plan, we spent a lot of time. And what we thought is we really wanted this lifestyle camping company. And it was really this blend of all of our sportswear experience. Because I remember I started sewing Gore-Tex and sleeping bags, and I ended up selling like women's yoga pants. Like my path was through a lot of different channels. And really what we came down to is like how we merchandise, accessorize, and present camping. It's not so much about the product, it's how we present it. So this new take on sleeping outside. So we went off, we looked at categories, and so we really felt like we had ideas about tents, sleeping bags, sleeping systems, furniture, which by the way, Curtis helped design our first piece of furniture. It came out about $450, so we had to back up. We're kind of going back. And these ideas were things that we felt really strongly that we can really bring something to the market that it needed. And our positioning was really different. The outdoor industry is a top of mountain industry. Everybody's aiming for the summit. Everything's about placing that flag. And our positioning was we're at the bottom. We're at the lowest elevation and the shortest distance. That was our entire story. And it really helped define who we are and what we wanted to do. We also spent a lot of time on just making it easy. How many of you here are sleeping in tents? What does it look like in that tent right now? We call it the shit show. And it's universal. Well, Curtis's is probably totally organized, but I'll say. But for the rest of us, you open that door and you just kind of go, and so getting that, you know, and you always hear like, it's like the map of the nation where, you know, you unfold it, it doesn't give you directions how to fold it back up. Because it's better not to talk about it. We're trying to help that folding process. So we really thought a lot about where you store it, how it goes to your vehicle, how it goes to the camp and setup, but then how to get it home and how to make that easier. So we call this the good system, which meant get out of Dodge. And then biggest was back to my kryptonite. Like, what do we do here? And this is honestly, it was the most fun. And we really felt like, and then we sent the product out to friends, really. And this came back. Images like this. Accessorize, modernize, fashion. This is not me, these are friends of ours that have taken what we've done and putting their imagery on it. It's music festivals and family trips and climbing trips, and I'm super happy with that. And then the product itself, once you get in this mindset, is really interesting. I have a really simple example. We're apparel and we're cut and sew people. And one of my biggest, and as a group, there's 4 of us, and our biggest complaint are lanterns. Because our industry is about extremes. So the brighter the lantern, the better. And so what that means is lanterns have the thinnest shell. So the light gets out better. Everyone know that LED white light? They're all white LEDs. Incredibly harsh light. And they're all something you would never put in your home. So we decided we wanted a lantern that was optimized for the lowest possible light. It was like that lamp you would make love to. And we're apparel designers, and so we would go out and talk to these factories, and they would be like, nobody's ever asked that question before. So how do you do like low light that's incandescent in color? And they would never work with people like us, but because we asked a different question, they opened their doors and said, wow, this is interesting, come on in. And that, I think as we touch every category, we ask those same questions. But again, the most fun for me is seeing people. I can't tell you how the reaction to you sleeping in the bags here, how important, how much it means to us. And as we've been in business for 6 months, I think what's the greatest part about it is how people interpret our brand. Because it's not like we have a lot of marketing out there. We're just sending the product and an idea. And the photos that are coming back are extraordinary. It's like, without telling them, they get it. It's like there's such a wish that equipment worked this way. It's been wonderful. He needs to be here, by the way. We'll talk about that later. These guys spent 6 months in our tent this summer. It was a fashion magazine out of Korea. Unbelievable. It's like the Vogue of Korea is like square bound, that thick. It was crazy. Climber and Joshua Tree. Okay, anyone know who this is? Who? Moon Unit Zappa. Your younger folks, her father is Frank Zappa. She fell in love with us. She just camps in her backyard with her daughter. And just, guys, it's just fantastic. So this is my teary moment. So we had some friends, these people I didn't know came through Ventura and asked to borrow some product. And he was the editor of Powder magazine. He was out traveling with his wife. He just wrote a book called The End of Snow. It's a pretty heavy-duty book about global climate change and its effect on the ski industry. And he said, hey, I want to borrow some product and shoot it for you. And literally it was like this long. You know, he's driving through, we're in a hurry. I just say, here's some product. And he took it off. And he came back and said, here's the content. And that was it. There was no guidance, there's no anything. So this is what they delivered. Pretty fun. Porter Fox, by the way, is his name. They're fantastic. So our goal is to sleep under the stars, and I mean, you guys slept under the stars last night. That means a ton. And I thank you for all your attention and your support, and for the great time I've had for the last few days.